Good morning, everybody. How are you?
Lovely.
Lovely. That's great. We all want to be lovely. Sorry I'm a little late. I was grading, and what am I up to? I'm up to 13 out of 24 for your class, so I'm moving right along with that. So for those of you that I actually have graded, what you want to do is go into grades, click on the grade, and it'll pop up, and then you'll be able to download the rubric attachment with your assessment and my critiques. So I'm working on that as efficiently as I can. So just be patient. Okay, let me do the attendance and then we'll get started here. One sec. Okay, Jody. There's Jody. I see Jody. Brandon B. Where are you? There you are, up in the corner. Okay. Boy, I really wish this was in alphabetical order. Sam. Sam here. I don't see Sam. Okay. Sarah, you look very Rosie the Riveter today. Lauren, there's Lauren up in the upper corner. Sean with his little hoodie on because he's cold. Matt, where's Matt? Is Matt around? Yoo-hoo, Matt. Oh, there's Matt. Hi, Matt. You're hiding in the corner in the middle there. Lexi, I saw. Carrie, I saw. Carrie's in the mountains today.
I'm using a different computer and I don't know how to get it off. So,
oh, is it one of the Zoom backgrounds?
yeah.
Are you on a Windows or a Mac machine?
iPad.
Oh, an iPad. Yeah, well, I would think it's the same thing, but you know, there's something very cute. I'll do it in a second because I've been meaning to do it. There's Cass. Okay. All right. Griffin. Is Griffin? There you are. Okay. Gabby is there. Hunter. Hunter. No Hunter. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. Sam isn't here. Okay. Sean, did I find Sean? Oh yeah, there's Sean. Sorry, Sean. Aya's here. Jillian. Jillian. Do I see Jillian? I don't see Jillian. Okay, no Jillian.
I'm here.
Where you are? Where are you? Oh, there you are. Wait, that's Holden. I'm sorry. Wave your hand. Oh, there you are. I'm sorry. Okay, great. Thank you. Sorry. There's Nathan. I saw Nathan. Evan is here. Sarah. Stephen.
Hello.
Oh, there you are. Okay, great. Thank you. Terrence, I think I did see Terrence. Did I see Terrence? Yes, Terrence. Holden is here with his little hat. Anthony. Is there an Anthony? No, Anthony. Okay. Garrett. I don't see Garrett. Oh, there you are. Okay. And I did see Keegan somewhere. There's Keegan. Okay, that's great. Okay, so, all right, hold on a minute. I'll make you laugh. I think we all need a little bit of a laugh this morning. If I can figure out where it is. Oh, where did I see it? I don't know where it is. All right, I don't know where it is. I'll surprise you next time. But there's something in Zoom that is really very amusing, and we have so much to do today. I don't want to spend the time on that. So let me get the lecture up. And you guys actually get to benefit from the class I have at Johnson, because remember last week when I did the examples with the depth of field and the shutter and all that stuff, well, with the aperture, I tried to do it yesterday with shutter speed and it was a disaster. So I'm not going to waste your time with that. But I am going to go over something else today to get us prepared for the homework assignment, which DO4, the getting the right exposure, is a very complicated assignment. So I figured out something yesterday that I'll show you if we have time today. I need to rewrite the assignment a bit because I don't think part of my instructions aren't actually accurate. So I might extend it. So just stand by on that. Okay. I'm gonna go with that. Nobody's actually started it yet, right? Has anybody actually started it yet? Good, because I'm sitting down. I would have fell down, and we don't want to fall down. All right, so let's share the screen and get back to where we were. This is where we were. This is the screen. Okay. All right, there you guys are. There I am. Hello. Are we recording? We are recording. Oh, just to let you know, I am finding that my yesterday Zoom recording hasn't come through, and I can't figure out why. And I've sent an email, and I've gone onto the Zoom site to find it. Just be aware that if it doesn't go up right away, it's because I don't have it. I'm trying to post them as soon as I get them. And usually they come in within 10 minutes after the class is over and I stop recording, but I haven't gotten yesterday's, and it's already, it's a ridiculous amount of time. It's almost 12 hours, over 12 hours. So just be patient with that. Okay, so just a quick refresher from the other day. Oh, hold on, I gotta make this smaller because I was. Okay, what is going on here? Hold on, it's a 280. Yeah, there we go. That's better. One sec. water in here. Okay. No, it's fine. I just shut the door if you leave. I didn't realize my wife was still in here, so she's going to get to listen to me. And she can't complain I'm talking too loud because she's in the same room at this point. But she will. Okay, just a quick review. We spoke about f-stops and apertures last week, and we have an inverse relationship here. The smaller the number, the wider the f-stop, or the wider the aperture, same thing, okay? The larger the number, the smaller the f-stop. That provides you with a reciprocal relationship between the amount of light you need and what's actually in focus. So if we have an f1.4, which you can see is a very wide aperture. So basically the difference is f-stop refers to the number, aperture refers to the actual equipment's opening on your lens. If we were in a dark room, I would make a very I would make a distinction between using f-stop and aperture. I would use f-stop when you were shooting, and I would use aperture for the enlarger. But basically, they're the same thing, but they're describing something a little different. The number is a way that you can discuss what your settings are, but then that's the f-stop. The aperture is the actual opening in the lens to let in the amount of light. And the light, if you recall from this illustration, as it comes and gets refracted to the sensor, it, depending on the millimeter of the lens, will give you different variations and distances that would be in and out of focus. Less focus, wider opening, smaller number. Total focus, smaller opening, larger number. It's just an inverse way, an inverse way and descriptor here. What you also want to be aware of is, and just as a reminder, each one of these, except for f2.8 in this instance, would give you, as you're stopping down to an f16, you are reducing the amount of light by 2. If you go in the other direction from 16 to 1.4, you are increasing the light by 2, which means that you need either a faster or slower shutter speed, which we're going to get into in the next, and as we move along. I just wanted to give you a quick little refresher, because when you just start learning this information, you find that, at least I've seen historically in my classes, that this becomes very confusing. So I'm trying to reinforce what we did the other day. Okay, so we can, and let's just look at this really quickly. So here is.
We're not seeing, I don't think, your slides if you're using them.
Really?
Yeah, we're just seeing like a bunch of just background stuff, like the attendance roster.
Oh, I have.
Or at least I am.
Green.
Oh, I thought, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, no, that's good. I'm glad you told me that, because I had no idea. Sorry, I must have grabbed the wrong screen.
I mean, looking at our attendance is great.
Yeah, I know, right. That's terrific, but yeah, it's useless, right? Okay, sorry about that. Well, good. This is good. You should stop me. It's only my second cup of coffee, so we have a long day ahead of us. Is this better?
Yes, I can see it.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Keenan. Appreciate it. It was Keenan who did that, right? Yes. Okay. All right. Well, let me go back here then again, just to, since you didn't see it. So you remember this slide now that you can see it. So again, I'm not going to go back over it again, and you have access to this. And actually, in week 1, under the video lectures, I have a formal version of this lecture. So you have the opportunity to review it at your leisure. It doesn't divert or diverge as I've been doing over the last couple of days, and which I'll continue to do when we're actually in class. And you also have last week's 2 lectures that actually are posted. So you can go over the more informal lecture as well. I consider what we're doing in here a little bit more informal, because if I get a little rush to go someplace, I'm going to take you there to reinforce what we're doing, as well as give you a extraneous information related to photography. We always look at photography as being straight on, but with some of the images that I've looked at over the last 2 days, there's a lot of different ways that you can interpret what each photographer is doing. So it's not really just a straight line. It can go into a whole bunch of different perspectives. But here are representations of f-stops and apertures. And what I was saying was the number is referred to the f-stop. The actual illustration of each of the size of the aperture is referring to the equipment piece. So with the lens, when we change each one of these f-stops, inside of the lens, it is either opening or closing, depending on the f-stop value you've chosen to shoot at. So that's where that is. So where I was trying to get us was here. This is a really excellent example of what a wide open aperture would have in focus, which is an f1.4, and a stop down aperture and f-stop at f16. You can see the significant differences between each one of these 2 f-stops and everything in between. These up to these 3, if we split it right down the middle, these 3, 1.42 and 3.5, are used mostly for portraiture and for artistic reasons as well. When you get, so there would be here, there would be a 5.6. Some lenses have a 4. 4 tends to be mostly for enlarging, but there are some lenses, and those of you that have a digital camera, you have incremental stops. You either have half stops, third of a stop, or quarter stops, depending on what type of camera you have. And if it's a professional camera, you're going to have more options digitally than you would with a prosumer, like with the Canon, the T series, or the D1000 series Nikons. I think in Aya's case with the Sony, I believe she has at least half stops, possibly quarter stops, if I remember. I don't have the camera anymore, so I'm not exactly sure. But what you want to be aware of is, as you're changing your f-stop, and that goes for the phone as well, if it looks like it's cut in half from the previous or the upcoming f-stop, that's a full stop. If there's numerical values that are in between that, those would be either third of a stop or half a stops or quarter of a stop. So I want you to be aware of that. I have to change my glasses. With the phone, and I've been doing some research, and I found some tutorials for the ProShot. I will post them, but I haven't gotten that far yet. All right, hold on. So those of you that have the phone, if you want to pull your phone out, at the very bottom where you have this, where you have the shutter release, the little big button, to the left, the right of that, you have a 1/ and a number. that's your shutter speed, okay? We don't have f-stops here, but I'm using this as an example. If you touch that, you will see that, so I'm right off the bat, it comes to 1/100th, 1/120th, 1/240th. Those aren't full stops. 1/100 to 1/120, 1/200th of a second, that's a full stop. This is giving us, it's giving us quarter stops, and then it's jumping past the full stop to 1/300th. So for the phone, when you get to whole numbers, I would consider that a one stop. So 1/100 to 1/300 on the phone, I would say is one stop. And I'm going to go over that in a second with shutter speeds. Okay, time for the other glasses. All right. Any questions so far? We good? All right. Shutter speeds. Shutter speeds do something very similar on a baseline to f-stops. It controls the amount of light that is hitting your sensor. The difference is that it's not controlling what's in focus in terms of depth. It's controlling focus in terms of motion. If you have a long shutter speed, a second, a half a second, up to a 30th of a second, you are going to capture blur. You're not going to stop your action. So in this example, if you look at the lower numbers, now they're using 1 second or slower, you can actually get blurry water from movement up to a 15th of a second. What happens is, as you reduce the time, so the inverse here is, as you go up in shutter speed, you're reducing your time. You'll get full blur at a second or longer. You'll get less blur as you reduce your shutter speed towards 1/30th of a second. Do you get that? Who doesn't get it? Okay, nobody's going to shake their head. Fine. I'm not going there. The reason why you're getting motion here at their example of 1 second is a couple of factors. The first factor is the photographer has the camera on a tripod. They probably have some kind of shutter release, or using a time release. I tried to figure it out on my camera and I couldn't figure it out. So, I was in a rush. But basically, if you want to be outside as we get into the spring and you want to play with this a little bit, you really need to have a tripod. And if any of you want to shoot at night, you absolutely need to have a tripod, because you're going to need to have a very long shutter speed. Now, most of you are Linden students. I did send Professor Glensbrush an email this morning to find out what the status is with getting equipment out of the resource room. So I hope that I get an answer on that sometime today. Those of you that, if you want to go and sign out a tripod, no problem. Just give me a heads up that you're going to do that, because they expect that you'll be taking out cameras. And if there's any other equipment, just let me know. So Gabby, I know you're doing portraits. If you want to get access to the studio, you have to let me know, and if you want a light kit. Also, if you, let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger for you so you can see this a little better. The entire image here is in focus. So how an image is broken up, and this is sort of a little bit of composition. This is the foreground. Remember, my hand was the foreground. I'm the middle ground, and my curtain is the background. In this example, this is the foreground, these rocks here. This area here is the middle ground, and that little valley of sky and the trees is considered the background. If we look at this image closely, what we can determine the photographer did was put it on a tripod, used a very slow shutter speed, as well as a very small stop down f-stop. So the example is 1 second or slower. So we'll go with the fact that this is probably a second. They probably shot at 16 or 22 f-stop. And we don't know what their ISO is, but whatever their ISO setting would be would then determine the, would help determine the actual correct exposure. This whole image is in focus, except for the water, because of the open shutter, that's movement, it's going to give you a blur. So see my hand? You see how my hand is sort of looking blurry as I move it? I couldn't capture that on the phone sitting down trying to click Lightroom when I was tethered. So it was a little annoying. So I'm not going to do that with you guys today because that's a pain in the neck. I really don't want to do that. Let me reduce this again so we can get that. Whoops, not that much. So in this example of the cyclist, again, we have a foreground. The cyclist is basically at the focal length of whatever the lens is. And he is, well, it is, can't really tell if it's a man or a woman. Let's not be misogynist here. The cyclist is moving a little bit. There's a little bit of a blur, but they've captured the action. This is called panning. And what that means is you're using a little bit of a slower shutter speed, not quite at the point of getting water to be blurred, but you're following along with the action. So as you shoot, you're going like this. Now, with most digital cameras, there's an autofocus lock that will allow you to actually lock on to where your subject is going to be, and it will hold that focus. Now, most of the cameras that you guys are using have that option. It's not quite as sophisticated as the next level up to what everybody's camera is at the moment, because as you go further up, what actually happens is there's especially the newer digital cameras, there are specific focusing sensors that will go beyond just locking the focus. It will allow the focus to follow the movement, which changes the whole dynamic of how you can do something like this. But you can do it to a certain degree. If anybody is interested in, like Gabby and I were talking the other day about her interest in shooting snowboarding and skiing. If any of you are snowboarders or skiers and you're going over to Burke or you go to Jay or somewhere else and you want to have a day out shooting, you can play with your autofocus lock and you can also pan. You're going to get a little bit of movement, but that's the whole point of it. You can lock in the action by going further. So if we can pan at 1/30th of a second, and you want to start locking in the movement, which is the example of this, you can start reducing your shutter speed. In this example, it is 2 stops faster than 1/30th. So the stop thing again, 1 second to a half a second is 1 stop. You will need half as much light as you move up here. If we go from, so 1 second to a quarter is 2 stops. So we need 2 times less light for this to be able to get a good exposure. Now, it is reciprocal with what your aperture is. So you have to keep that in mind. But right now we're just talking about individual components of creating different types of photographic images. So if we're looking at panning at 1/30th of a second, and we can start freezing the action at 250th of a second, how many stops do you think that is? And you could just put your fingers up if you want, or you could actually unmute and say something. Go ahead, Brandon, go for it. You get, those fingers are going up. Go ahead. Just don't put the middle one up.
I don't. It's hard to tell. I mean,
Okay, we're going from 1/30th of a second to 250th. How many stops slower, or how much less light do you need to go from 1/30th to 250th?
how much less light, or like
Yes,
around? I guess
less light. Remember, as you go with a faster shutter speed, you're using less light because it's,
Would you want to use the two?
yeah, you want to
250?
use double, right? So, okay, so this is what? From here to here is what? How many stops?
30? No, it's 60. Sorry. Oh God.
Yeah, I tell you, it's confusing when you start. Okay, no, it's good that you tried, and don't worry that you didn't get it. It's not a big deal because you're going to get it. 1/30th to 1/60th is half the amount of light. It's 1 stop. If this 30 and 60, if you multiply 2 by 30 or 30 by 2, you get 60, right?
Right. So
Okay, so we're going up in increments of 2, and we consider each increment 1 stop. So this is what? That's 1. What's that?
2.
2, and that?
So would it be 3?
3, exactly. So you need 3 times less light to go from 1/30th to 250th of a second. But at the point that you hit 250th of a second, the shutter is moving so quickly that it will freeze the action. And that's the example, well, that they're saying 1/25th, and that's this example here. Now you can see that the racing car is frozen in time. And also that everything in the background and in the foreground is blurred. So my estimation is that they probably used an f-stop between 3.5 and, well, I would say that's probably a 5, 6, or an 8 f-stop to get this part in focus. So if you remember, if we go back here for a second, 6.3, if you look at that, right, that's close to 5.6. That's about where that car was in the frame.
Right, because the main focus was supposed to be the car.
Exactly.
The background, or what I call is the background noise for me, is that that's all blurred out because it's really supposed to be focusing on the main item just moving around, which is the car.
Okay, but be careful when you use the term noise, because noise has to do in digital photography with the red, green, and blue colors in the sensor. And when you have a higher ISO, if you remember my example when I did the 100 to the 12,800 ISO, how the 100 was really nice and smooth and the 12,800 was very choppy and blurry. That's what we consider noise. So in terms of terminology, I would suggest that you, when you talk about the background, refer to it more as blur and out of focus as opposed to noise, because a photographer, when they hear noise, the first thing that any of us are going to think about that have, you know, a lot of experience, the first thing we're going to think about is, oh, they used a very high ISO. And then we'll question, well, why did you do that? You're in the middle of the day. You don't need a high ISO here. So just be careful of that. It's a nuance, but it's an important nuance if you want to have a proper conversation with an experienced photographer. And that's part of my job here, is to make those differentiations. So it's really great that you said that, because that gave us as a group an idea to understand how terminology can be interpreted. And it may not be what what you said was the background noise. There is, if we look at this, my guess is, well, I don't really know, but I would imagine there's a low amount of noise because this was in the middle of the day. So they probably did use a low ISO, but that was great. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. I do what I can for the class.
Yeah, no, it's and the rest of you should take an example. Just jump in and say something. If it's not using the terminology correctly, that's what I'm here for, is to explain why it would be misinterpreted. It's not wrong because you didn't know that there was a different way to interpret that. And so that's great. Okay. For those of you that are interested in sports to absolutely capture the movement and be able to freeze it, you really want to start considering shutter speeds that are above 250, and especially going up higher. I believe that my phone, here we go, change the glasses again. Whoops. Come on, what are you doing? How did I? Okay, wait a minute. How did I get to this? Oh, there it is. Okay. On my iPhone with ProShot, and it may be different with everyone's, I'm not really sure, but on my phone with ProShot, I can shoot at 1/8,000th of a second. So with the phone, those of you that want to shoot sports, you will definitely have the option to freeze your action. On the other end of the spectrum with shutter speed, it goes to 30 seconds. Now that's a problem because at that shutter speed, unless you have some way to, you've bought some accessory to connect your camera, your phone to a tripod, that may not really be what you want unless you really want to get a lot of blur. And that's done a lot in what's called light painting. Do you guys know what light painting is? Does anybody? Okay, irrelevant, no, relevant tangent. Hold on, where's the, hold on. This is light painting. Let me go to images. So light painting is taking a light source with a shutter that is open for a significant amount of time, and you're actually painting in the dark. This needs to be done in complete blackness. You really can't have any light. So you can see, like here, they've drawn a cartoon character. Someone here did a portrait. They made wings. So we got two different kinds of wings. We got evil wings, we got heavenly wings. We've got some abstract stuff going on. This was a very long exposure. There are actually people standing there and moving around doing these drawings. So they're moving and they're not captured on the sensor. Yes, Griffin, just jump right in.
How big would the light source like need to be?
Well, that really depends. You can use a flashlight. You can use a candle, but a candle wouldn't really work. It depends. So this looks like it was a very small light source. Here, it looks like it was probably a little bit wider. This one here is really interesting. I'm not exactly sure how they did this, but look at how fascinating. I mean, it looks like fabric. So that's a little bit beyond my level of knowledge for sure. Here they're using some kind of light that changes color as they do it. They're doing two lights in there. And my guess is that they probably started out small and then, it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. It's a very interesting thing. If anybody is, Griffin, if you're interested in doing that, like as the final project, then, I'll provide at that point, I will provide some supporting information. But what you can do if you're really interested in this is just the best place to visually see how this is done is go to YouTube and put in light painting tutorials. And you'll get a whole bunch of stuff. So let's do that. Hold on a second. Just so you can get to see what comes up. So here you go. I mean, there's all sorts of ways that you can do this. You can use a sparkler if you have any leftover sparklers from 4th of July. I would suggest you don't use like Roman candles or firecrackers. That might not be really a good idea. Well, actually, Roman candles, you are supposed to hold them, right? I mean, I remember as a kid, we used to put them in a soda bottle and put them in the middle of the street. But I do know people hold them, but it's really not a good idea. I would highly not recommend it. This is being recorded, so I'm on tape saying that I don't want anybody to blow their hands off. So Griffin, please don't blow your hand off if you decide to do this. But there are a lot of different ways to do it. And I had a student in one of my photography classes when we were on campus, and he did some of this, and he was using smoke and light. He was using those smoke bomb things that have different colors, and he was playing with light with that. It was very interesting. It's not exactly my forte, obviously, but see, look at how beautiful that looks in terms of this. It gives a halo. It also puts the way this particular photographer did it. If you look at the two models' profiles, they're lit really, really beautifully. So this is a very skilled form of photography. And actually, I do want to actually show you one of the earliest light paintings. So Picasso with Man Ray, he did some very early light paintings in Paris. And it's interesting because here he's not completely in the dark, so he was playing in a different way. And this is all film too. This wasn't digital. So that changes the whole dynamic of how one would actually accomplish that. We're 9:45, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, I want to just keep an eye on the time. All right. Okay, so let me come back here. So here's another really good representation of how the relationship between the f-stop and the shutter speed. So here now you're starting to get an idea of these relationships. Now, this is representative of a piece of film, and what they've done here is instead of showing it as a negative, they're showing it as an actual positive. So they kind of superimposed it because this film is tri-X, so you would actually see this as reversed. But what I want you to look at is we have at the top row the f-stops and their accompanying aperture openings. So we're going from wide open at 2.8 to stop down at f16. We have a very fast shutter speed at 1/1000th of a second going down to 1/30th of a second. So the white area in each one of the shutter speed illustrations is representative of the time. Now, we're not going to say it's 100% accurate, but you get the idea. You can see that for the 1/1000th of a second, they've doubled the illustration for 500. So there's your one stop and the doubling of the time. We've now quadrupled the time, which is 2 stops from 1000 to 250, etc. Okay. Now, what are you seeing here? Let me bring this up just a bit for you. Okay. What you're seeing a couple of things. So let's take the first one. Okay. You're seeing a small amount of the boy and the little toy in focus. The only thing that's really in focus is this part of the toy. Everything else is out of focus. That's your f-stop that's being represented here. The other pieces, and I need you to look at this one, not this one, this one here. Do you see that there is a whirligig thing going on the top that's spinning? Can you see that?
Yeah.
Right there?
Kind of. I can see it like kind of up and about.
Yeah, yeah. So it's some kind of little robot that has like a propeller on the top of it. Okay, I don't think it goes anywhere. It's just sort of you carry it around and you make, you do your little fantasy thing that you're flying in space or whatever. So from the shutter speed point of view, you're not catching any action at all because that propeller is rotating too fast. As we move down the f-stop hierarchy here, you can see that we're getting more and more of the image in focus until we get to 16, where everything's in focus, including that you can see whatever is on that wallpaper in the background. What's occurring with the shutter speed, now the only problem with this is the kid is moving the toy around. The photographer should have asked him to just hold it steady so you could, like on a little bit of an angle so you could see the propeller becoming more and more in focus. But if you do look closely, let's see if I can make this. Let's see. Yeah, there you go. Can you see that better now? Okay. And yeah, you can kind of see it here because it's cutting off what's going on in the background. But that is the reciprocal relationship between the f-stop that you're using to get what you want in focus and the shutter speed if there's movement in the image. So this is a reasonably good example of that. Does that is that clear, or does somebody have a question? You're all good. I love it. Good, good.
I have one question.
Yes, Griffin, go ahead.
So like,
You just muted yourself.
the larger the shutter speed, I guess, like the
The
You-
faster.
or the faster, sorry.
Yeah.
Blade stopped. Is-
Yes,
and
yes.
it's not blurry.
No, that's exactly right. Absolutely. The fastest shutter speed that you could shoot on, and anything above 250th of a second and above, okay, you will stop action. If it's really, really fast, you want to have a faster shutter speed, because so if, let's say you went to the Summer Olympics, I think they're supposed to be in Tokyo, but who knows what's going to happen. And they have those 100-meter runs and things like that, and they're usually like really like a couple of seconds. They're not, it comes down to the point something seconds to win. To capture that, you need an extremely fast shutter speed. So photographers that are at the finish line, because right, that's what you want the winner, you want to catch the winner, and that's what they say, like in a horse race, a photo finish. So they have a camera there, because if there's any discrepancy, or they've won by a nose, you've heard that, because that little bit tip of the nose is the thing that crossed the finish line. But if you just look at it normally, it looks like both horses or both racers are exactly at the same spot. So they're using a very fast shutter speed, and the professional sports photographers are using an extremely long lens. So most likely they're using something like a 600 millimeter prime lens that is, well, actually, that's an interesting question. Hold on a second. Now we're going to get into that was a great question. Hold on a second. Okay. Well, let's do it this way. 600 millimeter lens, fastest shutter speed. See what we come up with. No, that's not going to work. Okay, hold on a minute. Canon, because most of these photographers shoot Canon 600 millimeter lens. Okay, let's take this one. Okay, F4. Okay, $13,000. Okay, almost half the price of an average new car, which is like $36,000. So you're going to have a very shallow depth of field, and you're going to be able to zoom in really close. And let's see if it tells us in the specs what. Okay, let's look for specs. Hold on a minute. Specs. Oops. Focus. So it can focus at 165 inches, which is what? Hold on. 165 divided by 12. So it's 13 3/4 feet. And let's see if it tells us. So, and this goes down to 32. So you can actually get this is not only just a sports lens, but this is a lens that you can use for wildlife photography. So if you were fortunate enough to be able to go to Africa and go on a safari, this would be the lens you'd want to take with you, because you can only get so close. But what I'm looking for is to see if we have shutter speed somewhere. And we don't. But I would guess that you probably can get into the thousands with the shutter speed. And one of the things is, you see, this is an interesting thing. You see filter size, and it says that it drops in. Everybody that has a camera, you have a number on your camera that will tell you what size filter you can put on the front. A lens like this doesn't put a filter. It actually has a slot, and you slide the filter in. So you got a little bit of the, based on Griffin's question, you got a little bit of how you look and what things cost. So, and if you want to buy a care package here, you can spend another $700, which might not be a bad idea. And you notice what happens? One second, Griffin, you see this right here? This is a tripod mount. This lens is very heavy. Does it tell us how heavy it is? It weighs 107 ounces. So, nope, that's not right. It weighs almost 7 pounds. So you can't really just put the camera on the tripod, because that lens has a good chance of snapping off. What was your question, Griffin?
Where do you recommend us look for I guess cameras in terms of like?
Well, if you want to buy a camera, what B&H or Adorama are really the best places to go. But if anybody is interested in actually buying a camera, what I would tell you to do is send me an email, give me an idea of your budget and an idea of what type of things you want to shoot outside of the class. And that would be helpful. Most cameras that you're going to buy today are going to come with an 18 to 55 millimeter lens at between 3.5 and 5.6 f-stop, and a 55 to 200 or a 70 to 200 with something very similar in the f-stop category. Those are what's called kit lenses. That's a really good place to start. And then as you move along, then, and you want to upgrade a bit, an all-around excellent lens is an 18 to 200 or an 18 to 300 lens, which is a 3.5 to a 5.6 f-stop. And you always, whenever you look at a lens, you always get the numerical value of the widest aperture. It doesn't normally tell you what the smallest aperture. A 32 on this lens is very, very interesting. I didn't know that. Most lenses will go to 22. On my D750, I can go down, depending on the focal length I'm at, I could actually go down to 29, which makes me very excited. But anyway, that's sort of how it works. And if you, entry-level cameras can run anywhere from $1,300 as a base. Okay camera. And if you can go up to, in the 2000 category, you start getting a little bit more choice. But so like the body of this camera at the time when I bought it was close to $2,000. Let's see what Adorama is selling for right now, just so that to see. Okay, Nikon D750. Okay, so right now the body is $1,500. Okay, but now I bought this camera in 2017 and it was a newer version of the camera. The newer version of this is the 850, and That's $3,000. You know, so like some of you have the Canon, hold on, T6i, and I'll put in kit so we can see what we got for lenses. Hello, we can do this. Okay, it's not doing it. Let's take the kit out. Let's just do that. Wow, that's interesting. Oh, maybe it's the period that's in there. Hold on. There we go. There we go. It's still not doing it. Oh, no, that's completely bizarre. All right, wait, hold on. It's only giving me lenses. All right. Anyway, we digress a bit, but anyway, if anybody's interested, please send me an email. I'm more than happy to give you some suggestions and help you out with this. Oh, this is interesting. So here we've got a travel kit. We've got two lenses, 10 to 18 and a 50. And one of the lenses, and I bet it's the 50, can give you an aperture of 1.8. And of course it's not available. So there's such a range of equipment out there. So, okay, back, where are we? Okay, back to the lecture. All right, let me reduce this down a little bit. And so I skipped this, but here's a really good example of, this is what 1 second does. You don't get any information at all. If you go to 1/160th of a second, you're starting to stop the action. And you can see here at a 60th of a second, you do still get a tad amount of blur. But if you're shooting a portrait or you're shooting something on the street, you are not going to notice any significant movement at 1/60th or above. But if you really want to freeze it, you need to start moving into the triple digits of shutter speeds. And then here's another example of the complete picture. You have what is in focus. DOF means depth of field. The corresponding f-stops. So these two are interconnected. You have shutter speeds, which shows you at the point that you start losing focus and capturing motion. And so they're showing you that at 1/60th. I'm not in 100% agreement with this, to tell you the truth, because you can shoot handheld at a 1/60th of a second. Lauren, is that your cat? Oh, hello. What's your kitty's name?
Chloe.
Hi, Chloe.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Isn't she pretty?
Yeah, she is, and she knows it too.
Oh, of course she does. Absolutely. No question about it. And then down here, the ISO. So I'm going to come back to you, Brandon, on this. The dots are representative of digital noise. So this would be like 100 ISO, or one of the lower settings that are algorithmically calculated in the cameras. And anything related to what's going on in the phone is all computer generated, okay, with the chip based on the app that we have going on here. So if we say this is 100 and we're moving down to, say, 3000, you can see that the specs are getting to be more and more intense. The one thing and I do this every time I show this, and I really should just go in here and put ISO numbers in here, but that's the only thing that I think is really wrong with this slide, because it doesn't really give you the data, and there's a level of expectation on whoever made this, that you know that this is a lower ISO and this is a higher ISO. You all being new-ish photographers, you wouldn't necessarily know that. So, and where are we? Okay. This chart is very interesting because this is a way that you could actually do some calculations. So if you were in the field or you were shooting and you wanted to know, okay, I took a meter reading at f8, and it's not giving us ISO, so let's leave that off the table at the moment. I shot at f8 and my meter reading is 1/25 of a second. And I look at the back of my camera, or say you had it tethered to Lightroom, and you really don't feel that you have enough in focus. So you think, okay, I want to stop my lens down to 22, but I have no idea what and you want to shoot on manual, and you're trying to do the calculations in your head. So here we come back to the 1, 2, 3 thing. So if we go from f8 to 22, that is stopping your lens down by 3 stops. So you need 3 times the amount of light. So that means you would have to increase your shutter speed 3 times. So if we divide 125 by 3, we're going to come up with something that's going to be close to 15. And so that's your reciprocal relationship again. F8 at 1/25 of a second will give you the same exposure at F22 at a 15th. The difference is you are going, here's F8, here's F16. You see the difference in what you're getting in your focusing, what's in focus. Here you're getting only part of the image in focus. Here you're getting everything in focus. But by increasing your shutter speed, and don't worry about the motion here, by increasing the shutter speed, you're getting the same exact exposure. But if we look at Carrie's background, right? Carrie and the mountain and the trees, everything's in focus there. Okay, but don't move your head, because then you'll start tessering and we'll be losing you. We could say that Carrie is, if that was a still image, she was shot at a very small f-stop to get everything in focus, get her face in focus, get the trees in focus, get the mountains in focus, and the clouds are in focus. Whereas if we look at Jillian and we look at Keegan, they're in a very wide open aperture because very little is in focus. So in the way that their webcams are set up right now, they're not at the right focal length for the lens of the webcam for anything to be in focus. If we look at Cass's face is in focus, but his room is out of focus because of the f-stop of his webcam. So here are some live ways to look at that. And look at Nathan. Nathan is right in our face, okay? And he's reasonably in focus. So whatever his webcam is, the camera is pretty good. But if you look at the door and you look at his wall, it's completely out of focus. So it's got a wider f-stop. Is that starting to make a little bit of sense, or did I completely lose you like 25 minutes ago? Yes, no? Makes sense, doesn't make sense. That's really good. I feel accomplished. I could now go play for the rest of the day, and I'm going to cancel all the rest of my classes. Not really. Okay. Don't start working on DO4, the getting the right exposure. Check out the textbook, because on Thursday, excuse me, I am going to show you something else. I'm going to use a different bit of software, which I just got recently. It's called Capture One, and I'll show you really quickly. Hold on. Oh, it wants me to make a session. Oh, well, actually here. Hold on one second. I'm going to just show you this really quickly. Oh, it's there already. Okay. You see this right here? This is going to be really important for those of you that have a camera. And those of you that have the phone, I'm going to do a modified version of this. But this is what you're seeing right here is what's actually I would see through my viewfinder or on the LED screen. Lightroom has not evolved to this level yet. This is a piece of software that is used by professional photographers, especially in the studio, to some degree on location, depending on what, not necessarily at a wedding, because as far as I can tell right now, it doesn't have Wi-Fi connectivity yet. But this software allows me to completely control my camera, which I can't do to the same extent as, you know, I in Lightroom, I wasn't able to do that. I could control the f-stop, I control the ISO, and I can control the shutter speed and the white balance, but this is letting me control my metering and all sorts of other things. So I'm going to use this for more extensive demonstrations so that you can understand how these relationships work a little bit more intensely. So that's coming up on Thursday. Everybody have a nice day. I will see some of you in my later classes today. Check out, as I said, I'm halfway through this class's grading. So I don't know. Well, I know, Carrie, I graded you. I know that. And Brandon B, did you get an email saying that you were graded?
Yes, I did.
Okay, great.
Yes.
So good. So I'm not gonna send another email. As it gets graded, you can just go in and look at it. If anybody has any questions about where I'm coming from with what I'm doing, then pop me an email. If you need to meet with me, we'll figure out a time if it can't work during outside of my office hours. Probably Fridays might be a good day. Like tomorrow, I don't teach until 3:30, and I'm going to just sit here and continue to grade, because it would be really nice if I had a little time off on the weekend. You know, we all need to have some downtime. Even your faculty members need to curl up in a ball every so often and regenerate. So I'm going to my chrysalis form, and then I come out as a black butterfly. So anyway, you guys have a great day. I hope if you have any other classes, enjoy yourselves, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.